So we'll move to the next module now, which is designing a clinical communication skills program. What we do I can share with you, and probably one can take more leads about it from there further. We have a scenario bank and I'm carrying one today as well, and we'll be doing a workshop later. What we do, we call the doctors, which are foundation year 1 or 2, but it's appropriate at every level. I myself went for a communication workshop for 2 days residential course to begin with, to learn about it. But the scenarios we do routinely in our hospital, where I'm a faculty, we do on information gathering, explanation planning, apologizing when mistakes are made, how to say sorry, managing anger and complaints, where we deal with the violent actors, the violent patients role they play. Mental health and consent and breaking bad news are the other issues we deal with. Of course, all scenarios have their own charm, and we learn a lot out of it every time. Of course, the doctor who behaves as a trainee in these situations, he inquires and talks to the role model patient and calibrates his response via open and closed questions. Like when I say what's an open question, if a patient says, "Doctor, I've got a headache," and after that he's not telling me anything more, as you said, maybe not cooperating, then I will say, "Okay, where is the headache?" That's the open question. And if I say, "Is the headache on the front, on the back, or on the side?" That's a closed question. I give him 3 choices. So his answer will come, "Doctor, it's on the side." But if I ask him an open question, "Where is the headache?" he will say, "Oh doctor, actually it comes from somewhere in the ear inside." Well, the whole thing has changed. From headache, it's become into an ear problem. So the open question was better or the closed question? So speaking open questions, that will help you a lot. But that does not mean that closed question has got no value. It has. Absolutely in the end. What do I do? When I'm just leaving the patient, I've even summarized. Is there any concerns you still have? You know, after 10-12 minutes of concern, then something will be lingering in his mind still, which he has not said. He will say, "Oh yeah, doctor, there is one thing," you know, which will be changing the whole action plan again, or making some more value to it. Or also saying, in the end, "Is there anything more I can do for you?" Absolutely in the end, because you're done with the open questions. So deal with open questions maximum. And become from non-specific things, then go to more specific. How do you further design it? Of course, we know that there are feedback tricks, and we utilize that when we design this program. Pendleton techniques. I'm sure there must be some people who have done ALS or ATLS course here, or a PALS course, the Advanced Life Support course. I can see some hands raising. Okay, that is the feedback technique we use by Pendleton's rules there. What exactly is it? The trainer asks, or people ask, "What you did good?" And the trainee says, "Oh, I did this, 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 this." Then the group says, "Oh, he did good, this, this, this." And the trainer also says, "He did this good." But 80% of time is lost in talking about the strengths and the goodness things, you know. How could you do it better? Then we discuss that. Then the trainee says first from his self-reflection, and then the rest of the group and the trainer. But that leaves only 20% of the time, and the time gets over. So 80% of the time is not utilized for building up where the deficiencies were. But this technique, which is called agenda-led outcome-based analysis, gives a better idea about this feedback mechanism, because the person self-assesses and gives the problems what he thinks he has got and solves it. Of course, he talks about his strengths also, but he mixes up with the problems he has faced in different phases. And that is followed by the group involvement. The faculty member facilitates all the things in one way or other, which you will see in the workshop again, and also offers and suggestions are made, and alternatives are generated by the whole group, including along with the trainer, in a non-judgmental manner. And in the end, a certain part which has not gone very well, for example, if I say summarizing of the whole consult, which the doctor does, has not gone well, that part is rehearsed again in the end. If the doctor is showing good self-reflection, that yeah, I could have done that better, then as a faculty offer, "Would you like to do it now?" So he said, he'll be very enthusiastic. The actor is ready. They sit again for 2 minutes and they just discuss the summarizing part, not the whole consultation again. Or somebody else does it from the group for him, you know. So to see how it looks like. And that's how we do all these things, which is real fun, a good self-reflection and opening of the mind. Of course, one can utilize the technology by video recording as we're doing here, and one can consider collaborating with the insurance companies, because when we do these programs, it costs money at the end. Money is an important factor. We need money to do that. Nothing comes free. So if we have to do these workshops, they cost. The actors will take the money, and we also are giving our time. So who is going to pay for that? Why not the insurance companies? Because when a case goes to the court, their lawyers are getting paid, and that's where the money goes from the indemnity funds. We pay to them. But instead of that, if they train us, they will be spending less money on the lawyers, and overall money will be less, which will be served for using these kind of programs, which we are going to have probably in the future. So it makes sense, and everybody becomes more happy, except for the lawyers, of course. Right. The last two bits of the presentation we are reaching now. This will help you not only in the patients, but your day-to-day life, if you are not aware of. But I'm pretty sure senior members of faculty are aware of these programs, and they must have done or read about it. What's transaction analysis, behavior patterns? That's how we classify them. So parents are two types. They are nurturing, like more sensitive to feeling of others, guides and gives advice, firm but caring. And if I have to say someone I know in this hall, Dr. K. K. Agrawal reflects to me like a nurturing parent. I must admit that. But who is a critical one, who judges, criticizes, and sarcastic. And I do realize when I see that, I used to be a lot like that. And I see that example of the doctor nurses, I see that was a critical parent attitude which he was having towards the nurses. And that was the problem. He was saying correct, but in a critical manner, sarcastic manner. That doesn't work. Nobody likes him. So what if he's correct? And as I said, the content is only 7%. Your facial expression and the tone is much more important. Of course, adults, which most of us are and want to be, they collect information, they evaluate the alternatives and think before acting and behave in a logical sense. While there are some of us go into a child mode, and I enjoy whenever I am a free child who needs recognition. That's why probably I am doing this presentation here. And act spontaneously, genuinely warm and sad or angry times, but can be irresponsible sometimes as well. That's the only drawback. But a manipulative child, very demanding, playing politics and feels being treated unfairly and self-centered. To give you an example, we know we have many doctors who did their class 10th first, who did their class 12 together, and then they reached the medical college and did their final MBBS. We all know that in class 10th or class 12, what happens? Then girls score better than boys, be it numbers or be it scores. That's what I see read from the newspapers. And what happens when it happens to MBBS exam? They again score more. So that's a trend. But what do guys speak? The young doctors. I do not want to speak it out, but you know what many guys speak. That she got this much score because of that particular reason. That's unparliamentary words which I'm not going to speak. We all know that. But that's manipulative behavior. These same doctors, when they go to overseas, they start talking, oh, it's my skin color, that's why I'm being discriminated. You know, that's manipulative behavior. That's a trend. But watch yourself, don't become a manipulative child. It's not going to serve you. Right. Giving you some examples here of transaction analysis, like adult to adult. What time is it? 3:15. Good response? No problem. Parent to parent. Isn't it awful the way people in shops behave today? Oh, I know. Terrible. Critical parent to critical parent. So, no problem. No clashes. Child to child. Let's nip off work early today and get in a couple of drinks before we go home. Yeah, no one will know. So, happy child to happy child. And parent to child, you are making an awful mess of that. I know. Can you show me how to do it? So parent to child and child to parent. No problem, no clash. When does a clash happens? What time is it? Well, it's time you get yourself a watch and stop asking me the whole time.